Hello, everybody. Hello, Kim.
Hello, Danny.
Kim, IntuitiveView Kim.
Yay.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining. We were talking backstage. It's been like a long time. We read with Debbie Freebird's Spirit. And then before that, like 3 years, we did a show on your channel. And I'm like, 3 years. My hair was like up to here.
That's a long time ago.
A long time ago.
And it seems even longer given all of that we've been through in the last 3. It feels like it was 100 years ago.
I know. And when you were doing this, you know, all what we've been going through, and what popped into my head was the last month.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah, things are just, it feels like we're in bizarro land.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to get my feet on the ground as to what is real and what is not real. And, you know, I look at some news reports and I'm like, are they really talking about that? It's just crazy. It's crazy. So
it is.
And speaking of crazy, we'll go into some things. So we were talking at the very end of being backstage, and we're going to start off with that. It's that you do your 2025 predictions, and sometimes you do them in November.
Yeah.
And where are they? Where are they, Kim?
Well, here's the thing.
I have been waiting.
I have been getting information since probably October. But every time I sit down to do them, I feel like, wait, I don't know why. I don't know if there's some great grand reason why, or if I just feel like I haven't quite got everything that I'm going to be getting. So it's like, I don't want to keep updating and say there's more and there's more. So, but I've, you know, everybody has handled and dealt with the schmelection, you know, after the election, and mine has been really to dig into my spirituality. I have meditated more than I ever have. I've hibernated more than I ever have. And I feel more connected than I ever have. So
yeah.
There's something to that. Actually works. But everybody's handled it differently. Now, my husband is a Virgo, and he's kind of he's not a cynic, but he's very skeptical. So he's even living with me, even though my spirit guides have opened his phone for him when he forgot his password, he's still on the fence. So he's been watching more Hitler Nazi stuff in the last month than he ever has in his whole life. And he's one of these people who's kind of like trying to look at history to try to give him some insight into what is happening. Why are we here? What is going on? What is happening? So everybody's handling it differently. And I think however you need to do it, that's what you need to do, you know, and to get you to a good place, or to get you to a place of, it's going to be okay kind of feeling it.
Yeah.
I think do that. But I really do feel like, we're way tougher than we think. You know, we've been through a pandemic. We've been through a lot. And I think that we're way tougher than we think. And I also think that we all have an underlying need to come together. And I really feel like when the opportunity opens up for that, we all will. And I mean all of us. I don't mean just the us and them. I mean all of us will come together. Yeah. I think there's an underlying want or need for that. And I think it's been there for a long time. And
yeah. And I was getting that before we came on, because I'm trying to, I was trying to make this a very exciting show and have like lots of cool topics to talk about. And I'm like, this is the topic that kept coming up over and over again, is that we are going to be coming together somehow, some way. And maybe that's what your guides are saying, hold off, I don't know. Let me see if I can tap into your guides. No, they won't let me.
Probably good.
And one of the things that I wrote down is looking for a savior, and the savior's within us. It's not external. It's not Kamala Harris is going to save us, or if you're a Republican, the other guy is going to save us from. We're going to save ourselves. And I love, that that you started off with. It's going back into meditation. It's going back into hibernation. It's going back into ourselves, so we can get a clear picture on, I think, what we want to create in this time.
Yeah, and I think that the idea of a savior is so we're constantly giving away our power to something that we think is that we need, that is outside of us, right? And we've been told from all the greats, Jesus and Buddha, and the list is a mile long, that the power is within us. God is within us. We have an inner a spirit, a higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
There is something inside of us that knows and has wisdom and can guide us. And that's what we all need to link into now, because that's going to keep us safe. It's going to keep us in that knowing, where we know what to do. We know how to react and how to respond. And I think you're right. I think that looking for that it's easier, right? It's, you do it for me, that would be great.
Yes, please do it for me. Please save me right now.
Yeah.
And I remember that when Obama was elected, and there were people who were saying, he's going to fix this, he's going to fix that. I'm like, oh, that's not the way it works. It's a process, and it's within us. I don't think I said it then, because I wasn't where I am now. We talk about the 3 years since we first did a video together, and for me, where I've grown and my evolution in just the awareness of the silence and how powerful that is. It's mind blowing what we can create in the silence.
And what comes forward, right? The bigness that comes forward. We're here in these separate bodies and with separate brains, and we're all kind of, you can feel at times so small and so insignificant.
Yeah.
And when you reach into that stillness, there's something huge, something bigger that comes forward, and you realize what you really are. That this is just a tiny little experience that we're having, and as impactful and as important as it is, there is something there that is eternal and also huge, right?
Yeah. I love that image that you were talking about when you drop it. Well, when I drop into the stillness, and it starts to feel like I just get smaller and smaller in this space that gets bigger and bigger. And then I fill that space, and it's like the first time that happened, I was like, this is so bizarre because it's, I'm always looking at the duality of things. You have to have a right. Well, you have to have the wrong. You have to, that balances each other out, the white and black, whatever. And so as I got smaller, I got bigger. It was so cool, and I got connected and I tapped into the bigger picture of whatever that is. But it was great feeling. And I'll just leave it at that because I don't know if or an awareness. Anyway, that was neat. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think I just think we forget that how powerful and how big we are, and also how much we actually know. I think that when we're out here and it can feel very, I think that's why people want it like predictions, because they want to know what's coming. They want to know what's coming. And we, obviously we can't know everything because there's, free will's at play and everybody has it. So,
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do. But I think I think that when you tap into that, there's also that wisdom there that gives you that, it gives you the courage to kind of take every step, because it's like, I know what I'm doing. I do know what I'm doing. But that's there too.
I keep thinking back on that movie Field of Dreams, where the guy's going, he's the new kid's at the base taking batting, and the guy goes, he's trying to hit me. And he goes, yeah, so what's the next pitch going to be? And he goes, the first one was up, the second one's here. And he goes, so the third one's going to be right there. And he goes, that's right. But also watch out for the one in your ear. So even though we have these predictions coming, here's where the pitch is coming. Watch out for the unexpected. And that seems to rock us more.
Yeah.
That unexpected, which brings me to my next subject. Time stream jumps. Mm-hmm. What do you think of time stream jumps?
I think
some people are talking about this with the Kamala Harris election, that we switched time streams. And when I first heard it, I went, what? But I have a theory on it.
Yeah. Time streams, timelines. Is that the same kind of thing that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. There have been a couple of times where I've actually felt it. I felt like, ooh, something just, with that decision, something just happened. And one of them was the death of Navalny. That was a huge one. I just felt the shift. I felt like with that decision that was made, something just happened. We changed from this trajectory we were on, and now we've moved to something else. And I felt it happen. And I knew whatever it was, I didn't quite know all of the steps that would happen, but I knew it was worse for Putin. I just knew he had just made he just made it worse for himself in some way. But I just felt it, and we it could be that we're shifting all the time, but we don't always feel it because it's not something big, but I know that, I can look back at my life and see places where I changed the future. I changed what was going to happen. Getting married at 19, that shifted things, and getting divorced shifted things, things like that. But those kind of big, life altering, I think those are timeline shifts where you were going this way and now you're going this way.
Right.
So, when you say timeline, it sounds so like science fiction-y, but I think it happens probably all the time. We just don't feel it like that. But when people are in charge of a whole country and they make a big decision, I'm sure when we dropped the atomic bomb, I'm sure that was a timeline shift. That did something. It shifted something and made, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think those big decisions are just in just a bigger impact. Maybe we feel it more.
Yeah.
It's probably happening all the time. And, you know, maybe it's not, maybe a better way to put it is like changing the trajectory, as, you know, like you're kind of going, you know, so it's just, you're going one direction and then you change to another direction.
Yeah.
But what do you think about?
Well, and, you know, and along those lines, we have it in the micro and the macro sense too. So, you know, you can have it in your personal life. Well, I'm going to go get married at 19. I'm smart enough. I know everything. I can do this. And then you go, oh my gosh, this is a whole new way. And I have to adjust to a whole new way of thinking.
Right.
So huge trajectory shift. With my personal belief is that we are co-creating our lives. We get to create our time streams as we see them with our clear intentions. And so if we don't have clear intentions, then we can kind of be wobbly and muddly down the timeline road. With Navalny, I didn't feel the shift as much because I didn't pay that much attention to that. I mean, it was big, it was huge, and I felt that, but I wasn't tapped into it like with our election that we had.
Right.
That was huge. And the people even today are still numb from that reverberation, and as am I. And so I'm thinking about this, people talking about me switching tracks and timelines. And if I'm going with our intentions create the timeline, then if we buy into the fact that well, if I think that someone cheated on this election, my personal belief, huge election denier, and everybody's like falling into this place where he's going to be in, and his people are going to be in, which I'm like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it. And so are all these people changing the timeline now because they're believing in this one thing that shouldn't have happened? That maybe Elon Musk or somebody flipped a switch and they changed some votes. I'm not sure how all that happened. I think we're going to find out. But I think that shifts timelines. I think one action like getting married at 19, one action like changing some code in, I don't know, you know, in my conspiracy theory head, Starlink, a line of code. I mean, he already said all it takes is one line of code and I can get in there. So, but we all like follow in step with that belief that this guy just won. And I'm like, oh, no. So I think we're creating that time stream, and it irritates me to the point of screaming at the TV. And don't say that. No, he's not getting in. But even if he does, you know, and even if he doesn't, I'll go with that because that's what I believe. Our timeline that we had set up in the beginning has shifted, has changed forever.
Right.
And we're on a new path. And so this is where we have to figure out how we're going to move forward and what we're going to create with the timeline that we're in now, where everything has shifted. Our government's not going to be the same. Our legal system is not going to be the same. And our news reporting is definitely not going to be the same. That's been damaged. Whether he gets in or not, or whether she gets in, I don't think you're going to be able to fix it easily. So
right.
That's where we have to get quiet, get into the silence, kind of retreat a little bit, and that's where I get lost, because then it's just me in my little community that's a bigger community than I think. But it's kind of scary, because I do feel really small in this space, in this web.
And I think that's part of the tactic of these people who want to dominate, right? They want you to feel small. They want you to feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
They want you to feel like that what you think doesn't matter and things like that. And it's just the opposite is true. If we come together, most of us want the country to be a certain way. Most of us do. Even people that vote a certain way, they want basically the same things. They just, everybody wants healthcare. Everybody wants, Social Security, Medicare. Everybody wants these things. The powers that be that want to, take money and do these things, they don't want these things, but most people do. We're not alone. We are the majority, even if we're in different camps right now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because everybody that I talk to, they want the same thing. They want safety, security, they want food on their table, and they want their kids to live in a safe environment. Everybody wants that. And yet some of the powers that be want to throw us in fear and divide us. And so that's where I imagine myself when I drop into that space and getting small and afraid and fearful, that I find that it's bigger than that fear. And it just opens up into this beautiful, warm, loving embrace hugeness that we're all going for the same thing.
Right. And just, by the by, when I was asking my guides about, this was before the election, if he who shall not be named wins and or Kamala wins, what does it look like? And it was like, you're going to end up at the same space. You're going to end up at the same place. It's either going to be a really hard and fast road, or a slower and gentler road. Those are the two ways. So, but it was interesting, because it's like it's still going to the same place, which is a lot of resorting out our systems and the way they work and who they serve. And these myths that we've had for such a long time in the United States about, if you just work hard, you're going to make it. And it's like that. I don't want to swear on your.
Oh, you can. I'm fine with it.
That's not true. That's just not true, because the hardest working people I know are the working poor.
Yes.
And the laziest people I know are billionaires. So that is not true.
Am I a billionaire? Am I a billionaire? I should be a billionaire. I'm really lazy.
But and also the other myth that and we're all seeing this, right? And through who shall not be named, through that whole experience, who our justice system works for.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You don't see anybody. There's no billionaires and millionaires on death row, or on or in whatever they go to Club Fed, and they are especially even if they go to prison, it's not the same prison experience. And and this, the guy who with the CEO, and now he's being charged as a terrorist, and this other guy, terrorist, is going to be the president. So what is going on here, right?
Yeah, right.
We clearly have issues that we need to figure out, and we're going to the time is like it's upon us, right? Yeah. All of this stuff is coming to a head. We all feel it. And so the road to get there, to get to love, cooperation, caring for one another, taking care of one another, that is all going to happen, but it's either going to be short and difficult, or long and soft,
Yeah.
But that was the choice, because we got to get there to help the earth, to help Gaia, to help each other. And
exactly.
That's where we're going. We're going either way. So,
and that video that you put up on this subject was brilliant. It was great.
Oh, thank you.
So I encourage everybody to go to your channel and look at it. Watch all your videos. Just a little side note. I got an email, and I've read on this guy before. Speaking of prisons and Club Fed and stuff, Leonard Peltier is still in prison. He is a Native American. He worked. I don't know the whole story, but if you go to my community page, you can see a link. It tells his story, and we're asking again that President Biden commute his sentence, free him. He's 80 years old. The guy can't hardly walk. He's not. Anyway, I won't go off into that area right now, but I did want to just lay that out there, that if people want to look at that, they can go to my community page and see what it is. The other thing that you said that I've been feeling for years and years is that, we all are going to come together somehow, some way. And I'm like, well, I don't really know how that's going to work, but it's going to work. It's going to happen. And even on the outside of the world, is it going to be one big event? I just read that China is going to have 1,000 nuclear warheads. Mm. They're on track for that. They've been amping up their nuclear warheads, which then I think of spaceships and drones. Right. There are more and more of them coming on. I mean, how many nuclear warheads does a country need besides none? And so I think, is that why all these spaceships are showing up? I know some of them are drones. I know some of them are military. And I also know some of them are spaceships. What do you think? What's your take on that?
My take on it is, well, I'll just say that what I get when I ask about them is kind of like, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about that. And I feel like it probably is. Some spying, some, just testing stuff. I keep getting there's something being tested. I think there, and I also think though that there is a real, I think there's a kind of a paranoia right now, because I feel like people are like, what's the next thing that's going to happen? What else could happen? And I think that every time something, is happening, it's like, well, what's this mean? What's this? I think there's just this general, like, everything's off, and so why not have aliens show up? That kind of feeling of just like, what, of course this would happen now. But I keep getting that there's nothing to really worry about. It's kind of just, they're doing stuff that is trying to, I think a little bit is, now that I'm like tapping into it, that some of it is trying to keep people a little bit on edge. So there's some of that. There's a little bit of spying in there. There's also people messing with the time. So people are sending up drones just to mess with what's happening, make people a little bit more, or try to make the news.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah,
didn't work.
But it's and I do think I also felt that when we talk about the veil thinning, the veil is thinning. And so we're seeing stuff that was always there, but we're just seeing it now. The Northern Lights in certain places, flares, things. It's like it was always there, but we're just seeing it more as we're kind of raising in consciousness, and we're raising in vibration, and things are happening, and Mother Earth is like raising in vibration. I think we're just starting to see more, and it may just be like this now.
Yeah. There was I had this really cool experience that just laid this out for me so clear. And I know that the veil is thinning. I mean, I feel it. I see through it certain times. So I know it's thinning. When the comet passed overhead the last month, I was out in Alabama Hills, and my younger brother said, "Hey, the comet's here. It's right there." And he had a little app that showed where the comet was, and we're staring right at the comet. We can't see it. It's not there. But if you shifted your focus over to here, then you could see this blurry line. And then if you'd look back, it would disappear. Look over, you'd see it. And then you could train your eyes to actually seeing it clear. I'm like, this is seeing woo-woo. Yeah. This is seeing through the veil. Yeah. So as we look to ETs and vibrating at a different frequency than what our normal eyes can see, we just have to shift our vibration a little bit so that we are allowed on the same vibrational level, time stream, as they are, so that we can see them.
Right. And I had a couple of experiences. I won't go into the experiences, but I had an experience with my dad visiting me and in my bedroom after he passed away, and I had an out of body experience. And both of those experiences taught me that, they're right here. They're just at a different frequency.
Yeah.
We just can't, and what happens is that with my dad, I was in this kind of very, very relaxed and kind of in that inside and outside of sleep, when you're just waking up and you're still in that kind of, whatever that is, the in between. And I was looking at him, and when I said something, like I said, I won't go into the whole story, but when I said something, because I was staring at him for a good 3 minutes, just walking around my room, I thought it was my husband. But when I realized it was—
Wait a minute, you thought it was your husband?
Okay. Do you want the story? It's not very long. It's just okay. So my father had passed away, and it was the night before his funeral. And we had been getting calls, like middle of the night calls, like that whole week, because he was getting sicker, and then he passed away, and then we're planning the funeral, and people are coming in from out of town. And so I woke up, it was probably about maybe 4 a.m. or something. And I was looking at, I was just kind of laying there, and I noticed my husband was up, and he had the phone. It was in the old, back in the late 90s. So he had the phone up to his face, and he was walking back and forth. And I sat and I watched, and I thought, oh, great. Who's calling now? What's going on? What's going to happen? Maybe somebody can't speak tomorrow at the funeral. And I'm going through all of what could be going on in the phone. And what I realized was he was completely silent. He's just listening. And I'm like, what is going on? So finally I said, Adam. And he, like, what is going on? And Adam sat up next to me. I had been watching somebody just walk around my room. And this is what lends it validity too, right? Because I wasn't thinking like, is that a ghost, or is that right? I was just watching him, thinking that's my husband. and walk in. It just looked like a person walking in the dark with their hand. And the reason, by the way, it was my dad, but the reason I didn't recognize him is because he was younger. He was the age of my husband. He was about 30 years old.
Yeah.
And also the reason he had his hand up was because when he passed away, this is what I figured out later. He had a growth on his neck because he passed away from lung cancer. So he had some growths on him that were like tumors. And I think he had his hand up because it was gone. It wasn't there. So I think he was feeling his like the tumor, that it was gone. But he was walking around the room and he looked out the window and what happened was he jumped out of bed. My husband jumped out of bed. Of course, he's freaking because all I could get out when I realized it wasn't him was, who's that? Who's that? And so he jumped out of bed and turned on the light. And when he did that, it was almost as if it just kind of faded out. And what had happened was I had lost my concentration that I was in to see what I was seeing. And once that was gone, it was kind of like the magic eye painting, when like the magic eye things, when it's a bunch of little and they make one big picture and you lose that concentration and it fades.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. And so that coupled with an out-of-body experience made me realize that they're just at a different frequency. And if we can get into that, either into that mode or into that concentration, we can see them. But it's just, that's it. They're here. It's just they're at a different frequency that we cannot see when we are locked in to the five senses.
Yeah.
As long as we're in the form, we have to work to see outside of the five senses. Otherwise,
and the challenge is staying locked in. Because there's so much external stuff that we are now allowing into our awareness, where it should be, no, you can't go there. And that's why a lot of people, when they go out and do these quiet meditations, and so they force themselves to be quiet for a day, 2 days, a week, whatever, or go out on a vision quest, whatever they do by themselves, pretend they're Jesus and go out for 40 days and 40 nights. I think I want to do that. I think I want to do it right now.
I know. I was to say, I think more and more like that now that this is like, what desert can I just walk into?
Exactly. So a couple of things. My phone has now updated, and so now Google is like listening in, and it keeps.
Oh, right.
I'm like, shut up! Quit listening in. This is a private conversation. Yeah. So, I'm loving that and dropping into that space, which is my challenge these days. I can do it for a while, but I want to be in there longer, and maybe that's not healthy because I'll stay in there forever. 40 days and 40 nights, I'll be there.
I think that's the hope, right? Is kind of living your life, and because you have to be in the 3D to be with your loved ones and work and do all the things that you do, but being able to move into that space for just to rest, some respite from this time and these really heavy energies that keep changing, and it's a lot, especially if you are sensitive. It's a lot to deal with, and so just to have that respite is just so nice to be able to move into that when you need it.
And I've been finding when my hair was short when we first met, it would take me a lot longer. I would have to prepare and do all this stuff. And I am a big fan of rituals. I think that they're to set things up, to set the mood. If you want to do that, I think it's really powerful, and it enhances the experience of dropping into silence. But if you can't do that, and if it's not, you can still drop in really, really quickly, even if it's for a minute or two, because speaking of timelines, that minute that we're in there, we get revitalized, even 15 seconds, we get revitalized, we get healing, we get peace, quiet, and then however long we can stay there, that just stays with us a little bit longer. So,
and if you're not a silent meditation person, move into nature, go outside and sit with a tree or sit with just be in the moment.
Yeah. Sing and dance. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just move into something that will just take you out of that stream of thinking or the stream of worrying or the what ifs or I should haves or all those things. It just gives you a break from all of it. And we all, I think, need that right now.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting to me how different if this person does go into the White House, how different this time. Okay, no, forget it. How different this time has been, though, from 2016, when it was like everybody hit the streets immediately.
Yeah.
No, this is not happening.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen. How different the reaction has been, where it's like, I'm out. You guys did this. You deal with it. I'm doing something else, right?
It feels like, when you said that, it feels like, no, I'm just pausing because more information is coming out. And,
Right.
and I thought of what you said with your predictions. I'm being cautioned if I'm using, I may get the words wrong, but I'm being cautioned of putting this out because something is going to shift or something. I don't know. So yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's like I'm out. It's like I'm just going to let this play out and right itself to the correct way it should be. But I am in full agreement with you that however we do this, moving through the change is the biggest challenge that we have. And we have to stay in the light. We have to stay in love and not drop into the fear when we're looking at how is healthcare going to change? How is the government going to protect us? Or where are we going to get our true, correct news? And I've always said well, not always, but the last 4 years or 6 years, I've said, we can't get our news from outside sources. We have to get it within. We have to make sure that we vet it inside of ourselves and that it's true, because it's got to be true for ourselves, which makes it sound a little weird because you can, well, I want it to be this way, but.
Right. Well, and but I think you have to, I mean, we know what resonates, right?
Yes.
Resonates when, and that's also why you need to go into those spaces of quiet and kind of get away from everything to keep that connection of like, this is, I know when someone's lying to me, or I know when I think, it's more important than ever to have that inner kind of knowing and trust that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's also what will keep us all kind of knowing what to do next, whether it is helping each other, making an organization, building underground railroads, whatever we have to do. I feel like we will know what to do. It will give us that insight and that knowing. And I just felt like I just felt almost like all kind of ancestral spirits, kind of like they will guide us. We will have guidance because we have been through things like this before, just different packaging and kind of different times, but we will be guided. We will be guided through this time. We will be.
And for me, we will remember how to get through this because we've been through this before.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
we're going to start remembering back. All right, we are running out of time, and I have two things to ask you. So I'm going to skip one,
Okay.
which is to me probably the most important question, but I'm going to skip it. And that question for maybe another time.
Okay.
Are orbs spaceships? And you don't have to answer it because I know your answer and we'll disagree. So
right, exactly.
it's kind of like drones in ET. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But nonetheless, we won't go in there. So I asked this before, and I gave you a heads up from a musician who has died from 60s, 70s, 80s that may have a message for us at this time. Do you get anybody?
So I have a couple. I have two. One is a musician that comes to me often or comes in for me often. They're both women. One is Karen Carpenter and one is Janice Joplin. I've got them both right here.
Wow.
Again, it's interesting because, and just an FYI, just what always makes me so, what is so interesting to me is that Karen Carpenter is sitting on the floor, crisscross applesauce. She's such a hippie. She's very super smiley and super hippie-like. And I never thought of the Carpenters as being hippies. So
correct.
It's always weird to me. But okay, so one second. So they're saying they're coming in together because they're talking about things that they often sang about. One is saying and I think this is Janice Joplin, is saying that she often talked about not having love, loss of love, losing love. And Karen Carpenter is saying, I sang about having love, embracing love, bringing love in. And they're saying that we're seeing a time where we're seeing both of these things happen. We're seeing one area of our country that is completely ready to embrace love, bring it in, and we're seeing another part that finds love elusive. It's not coming to them, or they're not able to bring it in. But they're saying, in both cases, though, from that. In both of their lifetimes, but also as they saw their lifetimes unfold, and even after, when they're looking back at their lifetime, they both wanted love. So they're saying, move from that place of love. It's a very basic message, but I feel like I can feel why they came in together, and I think that's so interesting, and it's helpful too, because we think of them as radically different musicians, but they're saying that this is something that they had in common, just a different view, and they're trying to make us see the country as that right now, one embracing love, ready for it and ready to go ahead with it, and the other that's having a hard time, that is finding it hard to accept, finding it hard to find. But that is the bottom line is that is the answer. That is the answer. And so, thank you. They're waving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that is the message. Isn't that interesting?
That's great.
That is so weird. I've got chills all over. But
yeah. Did Karen Carpenter have her drumsticks?
She didn't. I should have said, can you do a drum solo?
Yeah, just a little one. Come on. Awesome. That was great. That was such.
I feel really dizzy too, but I always get that kind of woo when you have a really a strong connection. But I think that is it's good to remember, right, that we're not all in the same place.
Yeah.
When it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Accepting help, accepting love, accepting, we're not in the same place. And
right.
But we'll get there, because that is the answer.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like, part of the country is like pushing it away.
Of course.
That is the answer.
Yeah. So what I got, something really similar, and I did this before because I'm not as skilled or I'm scared. So I wouldn't do this on camera just yet. But when I was thinking about this before the show, and I dropped in, I got John Prine.
Oh.
And John Prine, he had a couple of great songs. Your flag decal won't get you into heaven anymore. So that he brought that up. And the other thing he brought up was him just getting along with it all, and how he would go. The image I got was him sitting in the back of a bus with all sorts of people, and all different walks of life, and just getting back in touch with people again. And that's what he brought forth. And I think that that's the common theme of this whole video. Seems like it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. We just got to get back into touch with all of us, with our basic needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do it. And it will be through a lot of movements. I think a lot of movements have to happen to kind of get us there and push us there. Where, there's been this separation for a long time, but it's not meant to stay that way. We're going to come together. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm chilling. I am getting chills.
I know. Me
last
too.
Section.
Me too.
So we're going to leave it right here. I want to thank you so much for coming on, and during this busy season. Thank you. Thank you,
Danny.
All right. And thanks everybody for watching. Please go over to Kim's site. Watch especially her video of the 2 different paths that we can take. That was just brilliant. But you are brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny.
Okay. Bye, everybody.